Peter, I don't know if the truth is out there, but I know that there are some very interesting conversations happening at high levels when it comes to have we been visited by other species from other planets?
Joe, I don't know if the truth is out there, but I can assure you there's a lot of bullshit right here. Ever since you sent me down this schizophrenic psycho hole.
I knew you couldn't resist, and I also knew it was a path filled with garbage.
It is hard to I've watched a lot of garbage, okay? And for me to discover that like there is in fact a quality threshold that this is a YouTube video we're doing here, so documentary to get on TV, that there is some sort of screening process where people go, no, this is just too fucking nutty. We're not showing this on cable TV. But the secondary market is just rife with this crap. Like, trying to read up on this to really just see where a lot of people are coming from. David Greer was a name that was thrown out for me to look into his stuff, and I started with the Joe Rogan podcast. I think it was episode 331, which mysteriously isn't available anymore, which I was like, ooh, how interesting.
Ooh, can't find that one, huh?
Are you familiar with Greer?
Which one was he, actually? I've
the
seen
ER doctor who he had like the Disclosure Project and the Sirius documentary, and the podcast with Rogan starts out pretty great because this guy's able to keep the nonsense on a leash for a while until he gets to the point where he starts telling Rogan that he is able to use the CE5 or CE6 protocol to initiate contact with aliens through guided self-meditation, and basically astrally project off the planet, and that alerts aliens that he is open to contact if they want to come through. He starts talking into this shit, and I'm just like, the needle flicked off the record. And I was like,
right?
What the fuck am I putting my time into right now? This dude's a cult leader. And I'd already downloaded this fucking Sirius movie, and he just goes straight for the throat in that thing. I got, I don't know, 15 minutes in before I was like, nope.
I knew more about Bob Lazar.
Lazar, I'm down with.
I knew about the Air Force pilots that have come out and was like, I got a whole story. Like, I saw it. I witnessed it. And then this new guy who came out recently that's probably been the most credible so far. Grush, who used the whistleblower process that they built into Congress to basically get things submitted onto the record such that it could be investigated. It was quite a bureaucratic end around. And recently there was a podcast that got reported on Fox News about a Tennessee congressman who was definitely a good old boy. Definitely a country fried kind of guy who...
Or at least that's what he would lead me to believe.
Right. Who said that the bureaucratic deep state within Department of Defense that is attempting not to release this information about these found objects and crashed spacecraft and allegedly also like
retrieval programs,
a whole thing that's been going on for decades, is that they will get Congress people who are interested into a SCIF, which is a secured area for a top secret briefing, and then brief them on it so they're not allowed to talk about it. So we basically prevent them from being able to disclose it by officially telling them, and now if they disclose it, they commit a felony.
So that is, of course, a time-honored tradition from the filthy LARPer circles that you and I hail from.
Absolutely.
That was a Cleveland special where, what the hell is his name? Hoffman.
Disclose sensitive information. Find out if it...
I'm trying to kill your character, and I'm doing X, Y, and Z, and then like when they're very obviously telegraphing that in character, you're like, well, I'm going to do... No, they're cheating. They know things, and now they're using it. They can't. It's metagaming. tell me more about these skiffs, because I listened to that podcast and I meant to look deeper into that. So is that something that's like special suites in Congress, or what is that physically?
So it is a secured location where you will receive briefings and be able to read documents and access technological records that would otherwise not be permissible for you to view. So it's a secured location, so no one can eavesdrop, no one can see what's going on in there, nothing can leave it. So you don't leave with a record or anything like that. You
Other than the
get given
Chinese spies that are being paid to be there as staff, yes.
and you get or end up banging congressmen, as what happened to Eric Swalwell. And in there, okay, so you're on the House Intelligence Committee, and now I have to tell you about this, right? Because this top secret thing happened, but you oversee us. So I have to tell you, but you don't get to leave this room with any information that can prove it. And if you actually say what I just told you, you just committed a felony. And so in this way, the congressperson is briefed. They can talk about it in the abstract. They can talk about it, generally speaking. That's what you have to see. Sometimes it does get leaked by people who, are able to hide their identity and have ways of getting those things out. But in this way, information releases are compartmentalized, and if you know who you've briefed and then something gets leaked and it gets leaked to a guy who's very much friends with one specific congressman, suddenly like these webs are very easy to build.
It's amazing to me the connective tissue between the UFO conspiracy / fantasy and the deep state borderline Illuminati conspiracy, right? And that was something that I thought Greer, for all his other nutty shit, did actually do a nice job kind of illustrating that, like, there is a status quo, and that status quo is built around oil and money, right?
That is correct.
Huge motivators there. Getting into the Federal Reserve and like what the value of the dollar is tied to and how much of that is dependent upon the price of oil at any given moment. And you start tying in Bob Lazar, like the ridiculous technology that could be a part of these UFOs, or what's AOPs.
Yeah, it's got a bunch of different acronyms.
But whatever the distracting term is. But if this stuff is real, and if it's able to move with gravity field propulsion or whatever the claims are, that it would just completely offset the balance of what oil is worth, centralized power grids, all that other stuff, and really ruffle a lot of feathers and collapse a lot of houses, and a dedicated effort that would go into suppressing that. And it's like, man, you're talking grand, but are you really talking crazy right now?
I've said before, I think, when we've talked about this topic, I firmly believe there's been evidence that we've had in hands. I believe the stories that the United States and other actors have collected this material in one way or another, and we have enough evidence to make the educated conclusion that there is life on other planets and we have been visited by it. And you're absolutely right. The consequences of that revelation are going to be disruptive. Even if, in your scenario, we don't have enough of an understanding of their technology to recreate it or make economic use of it, right? Like, you're saying, well, what if we eliminate the need for oil and that sort of thing? Well, we don't even have to go that far. But the official revelation of, like, yes, there's massively technologically advanced alien species. They have visited us. We cannot do anything about it. Ooh, humans don't like that last part, right? Humans are real panicky animals, and they don't like having agency. Or not having agency, I should say.
The more I've thought about it, and again, I also agree with you that there is stuff out there, and I think it's highly probable at this point there's some degree of interaction between other things and Earth.
Yeah, we know they exist. I'm saying, like, that is where my line is, but I'm there.
Getting into the the deeper military industrial complex conspiracy on that. I think the hesitation to expose the public to the truth, a potential truth that there's aliens out there and they're interacting with Earth, I I think that the motivation is less that people are going to go crazy and religion is going to go nuts and this and that, and more that it will severely disrupt the current status quo. And that is why they keep this stuff under lock and key. And that's, so much of that is basically said in that podcast for, what's his name? Representative.
Gosh, I had it all looked up earlier. There's a guy from Tennessee. I guess if you Google Tennessee Congressman aliens, you'll probably find this guy's name.
Sure.
Classic good old boy.
I listened to the whole podcast. It was ultimately unfulfilling, right? Like you go into these things being like, what truth can I glean? And that guy, still a politician at the end of the day, still dragging a bunch of political shots in, a bunch of takes that was appropriate to his party, a lot of self-serving statements, and what I felt to be basically ensuring votes and just basically campaigning from all intents and purposes. And it's like out of that entire thing, he had maybe a good 5 minutes out of that 40 minutes that wasn't some sort of campaign focused effort. But a lot of that too was just like, there's a status quo and it's not religion that they're afraid of. It's this other stuff.
I think people of religious belief are closer to accepting that than most, right? Like if you are someone who's deeply invested in a spiritual structure that frankly suggests the unknowable and having faith in the unknowable and the unseen, then this is not hard to comprehend, right? And I'd say most religions are probably pretty accepting of the idea of a creator deity that's created more than humans,
sure.
right? So that all tracks. I think that's not your problem. It's you're just going to have a lot of people who aren't going to be able to cut into like, oh, there's just this huge existential unknown about our very existence on the planet that we can't control for or do anything about or actually understand.
Two other things that I really agreed with as well, and it's that for whatever formal efforts that they might be arranging for in Congress right now, and Rubio's been pretty up at the front, like saying we're going to get into this stuff, is whatever evidence is going to be presented at these public hearings or whatever, expect to see either ridiculously redacted material or just patently false dummy reports.
The guy said what they're going to do already, which is the reports they're going to present are going to be super redacted, and they're going to have to say they're going to have to brief people behind closed doors because the methods by which they've gathered the information are going to be classified and cannot be disclosed to the public. That's what they're going to claim. And that's why they don't have to tell you anything, because if I tell you I know something or I tell you how something happened, that will indicate a capacity that we have on a military or intelligence level that is top secret. And because of that, I cannot tell you thus how I collected the information except in a closed setting where no one can hear it. And you can't disclose it. And in this way, the public can never know this. And the only way that can change, of course, is if the laws change. And of course, the only way the laws are going to change is if suddenly you have enough cooperation in the federal government level to do so, which doesn't exist. And your deep state, your bureaucrats, whatever you want to call it, they know that. They know the game. They exist within the system, and they are interested in preserving their power. They may think that they're doing the right thing, frankly. Like, we understand this better than you hill seeds. we have been keeping the lid on this thing so that humanity doesn't fucking explode for 70 years. We should not tell everyone, and we're going to fight every inch, by tooth and nail, if we must, to prevent you from being able to disclose it. So there's even a steelman case for not telling people, and I admit that, but that's the way they're going to do it. And this is, when I worked on Capitol Hill 20 fucking years ago, it was this way. It's just, that's how information is compartmentalized, and that's how these political games get played.
Methods work, and keep using them. The last thing you said that I really agreed with too, in terms of threat and scale and scope is that there's no reason to consider whatever is out there hostile at this point.
Yeah, I think that's important.
You have no ability to realistically dissuade them from whatever they're doing. And if they wanted to do something terrible, it would have happened already. If they're going to do something terrible, then in our current state is best you or I or any other kook on the internet, talking out of their ass alongside with us knows, they're short of EMPs, like bullets and missiles aren't going to catch these fucking things. So, we're here, we're going about our day. We haven't all been enslaved.
Yeah,
life goes on.
I consider that the most white pill part of the affair is we have been visited by things that are so technologically advanced we could do nothing about it, and we're still here. Well, that is in the top 10% of outcomes as far as I'm concerned. Like, whoa, really? Okay, you know what? That's actually great. The world, the galaxy is not a 3-body problem galaxy. Like, good. That's good. And I take a lot of comfort in the idea that there is a galaxy rich in life, and this is the Star Trek part, right? This is the Star Trek in both of us.
Sure.
Why are we into this? Because the idea of like searching space for other civilizations, making contact, and understanding more about the galaxy itself and all of the life and potential civilizations within it is.
Think for a minute, if there is life out there, if replicators could exist, I mean, you could be eating whatever you want every night for dinner. Low calorie versions too, and you are not going to be able to tell the difference. Like that's what I'm in it for. That's what I'm really, really hoping for.
Don't give us the holodeck technology. We got birth rate problems as it is. That's just
if a couple people need to get abducted and butt probed here and there to get that replicator on my wall, so be it. You want to make an omelet?
You can butt probe me. You can butt probe me if there's a replicator at the end. You like you said, if you make an omelet, you got to break a few butts. Mine's signed up.
You gotta rip a few anuses.
I for science and technological advancement.
I'll tell you what, though, keep the transporters. I've come to the firm conclusion.
You want a soul-sucking machine?
As a 41-year-old, McCoy was right. I do not want to die on that pad and be reassembled as a simulacrum somewhere else. We're good.
Picard Season 3 sealed it for me, too, my friend. And by the way, to our YouTube audience, thanks for listening and watching the stuff. Like, share, subscribe, all that great stuff. Thanks.